Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another Coin Bureau AMA. Just before we kick things off, I want to check, as always, that you guys can hear me okay. So, if everyone can hear me good and well, before we get started, could you give me a hello in the chat? That would be most kind of you all. Okay, thank you. I can see Charlie in the chat saying that he can hear me. Fantastic. That is what we like to hear. That eliminates the first possible and the only error that can come with hosting these fantastic conversations. As always, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to see so many of you here on these afternoons as we do a deep dive into specific projects that you guys have requested and really get to pick the minds of some of the founders behind some of the projects. So, without further ado, let me kick things off with introducing our guest for this conversation. Today, we have Erman Tishbura, who's the CEO and founder of AIOZ Network. So, Erman, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you today?
Great. Hi. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great.
Fantastic.
Yes, thank you very much, Jessica, and everyone at Conbureau audience. My name is Erman Chiputra. I am the founder of AIOZ Network, and it's a pleasure for me to introduce and explain more or less what we're doing, what is our future, what we see. It's also an AMA session with everyone, so you can ask me anything. What I think, or what you like to know more about what we're doing, or the future of AI, or the pin. Yeah, in general. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, actually, there is a lot of different ranges of topics that we can dive into today. So, we've already had some questions that have come through on the questions tab of the Discord. But as Irma has said, also we'll be monitoring this chat box as well. So, guys, please optimize this time. This is a fantastic opportunity to get to pick Irma's mind directly. And thank you so much for taking the time, Irma, out of what I can imagine to be a very busy schedule to sit down and speak with us. I think we can probably kick things off just with an introduction to yourself and your journey into the world of technology, cryptocurrency, AI, because AIs is really a combination and melting pot of all of these things. So, how did you really get into this line of work, this field?
Right. Yeah, so that's a good starting point. AIOS is actually formed in 2013, and that we're actually a deep tech company at birth, in inception. So essentially, what we do is provide AI solutions for companies that basically want to apply AI in their so-called the workflow, right? So AI is not a one size fit all solution in general. It requires a specific, I would say, a problem statement from the client itself. And then with the problem statement, we solve it with AI because each client will have its own sort of like specific data, and we need to so called like what we call clean the data, and then we have to create the models, the AI models, and fit the solution according to what the client needs. So essentially, we've been doing that for almost, I would say, since 2013 until now, still. And then we've started to look into blockchain in 2017, 2018. I think Ethereum I mean, Bitcoin came about, and Ethereum sort of made the smart contract, right? So we wanted to understand what it is all about at that time. So, and that's how we tried to apply blockchain technology in terms of what we've been doing. We actually have been applying a lot of video technology when it computer vision space, deep learning space. So a lot of times these clients will require us to be very cost efficient, right? They either want to do, they have two solutions. One is on-prem solution and one is cloud solutions. So cloud solutions is really expensive, and it requires compute on the cloud, and on-prem requires a initial upfront cost, a capex, right? So typically they will want to do a capex, so-called upfront cost, and then we deploy the solutions on-prem, right? So going about with these different, I would say, solutions was a good segue for us when we apply blockchain in terms of how we can, I would say, make best use of what we've been applying into a blockchain technology, right? So that we can distribute the video technology, to store it, to transcode it, and apply it, right? So that's how I think we started off to apply. In 2021, we went for TG event and explained to the world that we're actually applying, I would say, build an application layer where a user can download, install, and run, and they can actually run, empower a proof of concept product, which is a streaming platform we built. So, in a sense, I think that was quite well received and really simple to understand product. Yeah, that's how we started to come to where we are today. Yeah.
Super. Thank you so much for that. And I think that gives a great backstory for anyone that is listening that is looking to, get involved or possibly looking to run some AIOZ nodes in the future. Now let's focus a little bit on AIOZ, the network itself. So first of all, I think the name and the creation of the name is pretty fascinating. So if we could start with, how you came up with the name and also how you first, gathered the team together and really kickstarted the launch of the AIOZ network, um, and its inception.
Mm, right. So, when we started off with my team, we're a core team, about 5 team members at the very beginning. So, every team member was very, I would say, proficient in what we are doing. One of would be in AI, some would be in the front end, some in the back end, and blockchain too, right? So we're pretty much doing quite a bit of things as a startup at that time, you know. So we thought, okay, we're doing from A to Z, and input and output is basically a basic computing interface. So we decided to put in AIOZ, and essentially that's who we are, what we are, and currently we've sort of expanded to about 40 team members strong, technical, in front end, back end, AI scientists, right? And we have also a team of designers, UX, UI designers, team about 5, right, in graphics too and motions, and also a marketing team based in Europe as well. Yeah.
Super. I like the reference of A to Z, everything in between, with AI always at the front. I think it's a very easy um, slogan for people to keep in mind. Now let's talk through, because there is quite a few different offerings that AIOS Network provides. Let's talk through some of those if you can, and also, as the founder, how do you see that AIOS Network really sets itself apart from the DeFi landscape that we see currently? Sorry, the DePIN landscape.
Right. Yeah. So let me give you a bit of primer of essentially how actually AOS also has evolved through time. You know, in the beginning of our conversation, I was explaining that we actually started off as the video platform, right? However, during that time, we do have an AI team that is sort of like separated and sort of like not involved with the blockchain technology, because we're building solutions for, we're sort of like an ISV, independent service vendor, for this technology out partners that we have. You know, they could range from HPE, you know, we work with NVIDIA Inception program. So, yeah, I mean, the AOS network evolution came about whereby is a DePIN for Web3 in AI compute, storage, and streaming. And essentially, what is the pin, right? It's an application that we've built, where a user with a Windows OS or Mac or Linux are able to download this an application, install it, and run it. And this application uses three, I mean, main functions of the computer, of the device. One is in storage, where segments are replicated and distributed. Two, it uses the GPU. The GPU, we have two main utilizations, one of which is in transcoding, which is basically for the digital formats out there, the media formats. And then the second one is in AI compute, which is equals to running inferencing tasks and training AI models. And third, which is the most important in our point of view, is bandwidth. A stable, consistent bandwidth is very critical for our network, a DePIN network like us. And together with this, the pin network, currently we stand strong as 170,000 network strong, right? Nodes that are being powering the pin network. And what do they do? What are they powering, right? So we identified four main, I would call IaaS, infrastructure as a service. One of which is a product called W3S. It's an S3 protocol base, whereby any project or any company will able to use an S3 protocol and store anything, everything under the World Wide Web. It can be in the form of image, it can form a video, right? So that is like a storage, bread and butter, right? And the second infrastructure that we've built and shipped is a product called W3 IPFS. It is based on the IPFS protocol, and because of its inherent property of immutability, it fits the, I would say, the criteria of what we have now in the Web3 space called NFT. So NFT uses IPFS protocol as a use case, which is very great. So we basically store the metadata of this. It can be in the form of image, uh, video, and basically replicate across the nodes, right? Using IPFS protocol. And the third infrastructure that we have built and we're planning to ship in Q3 of this year is a product called W3 Stream. You can think of this product as a video infrastructure. It powers video on demand and also a live streaming. So it can be in a form of short form video or long form video. So short form typically are like a 30 seconds to a 1 minute video playbacks. And then long form, it can be in the form of like hours, right? So an example would be like this W3 Stream will be able to power like a TikTok, which is a short form video, and also able to power a long form video like a YouTube, right? And live streaming, of course, it's a very, I would say, a very computationally intensive resource task because it needs to transcode on the fly, and it's I would say it's not that technology is not ready for us. It's more or less that the pin network needs to scale out. One would think that 170,000 strong is enough, but for us, we need to grow way more than that. Because we need to do live streaming, and live streaming is super intensive, right? So the last but not least is a product called W3AI. W3AI, you can think of it as a incentivized collaborative AI compute platform where AI developers like us can store data sets, we can run inferencing tasks, and also train AI models. And they also can able to develop AI dApps, right? So these are all powered by the blockchain technology, and of course, incentivization by tokens. So I think all in all, that four main infra on the front end creates a business. I always treat and think and act for AIOZ as a business, right? Tokens is great. Take tokens is a payment layer for us, right? By the end of the day, I need to think about how is there a recurring business? What is the business model, right? So we have identified these four main businesses, which we think will be a great use case for our future in terms of utility, right? And what truly I would say unique about our product is that Mm, we have an application layer, I would say. This application is basically the heartbeat of AIOS network. Um, it truly sets itself apart because any user can actually just participate in this network. Whereas a couple of my peer projects requires a whitelist, so-called program. One needs to fit a certain criteria and conditions, which is great, by the ways. I would say there's certain use cases for that as well, which is super. And our use case also is also unique on its own. So I think there's some differentiator, but all in all, uh, I would say we in this industry using this, I would say, blockchain technology to incentivize and manage the physical infrastructure in a very decentralized manner, right? And the pin, it focuses on these distributed network of resources like data storage, computing and connectivity, right? And that's essentially we the industry are in at the moment. Yeah, thanks.
And thank you for clarifying. So you underlined kind of the four key pillars and one which is launching in Q3, which is more focused on video streaming and some of the roadmap that you have in store. It seems pretty diverse. So I'm curious to hear from you. And these can be Web 2 comparisons or Web 3. Who would you say are some of your competitors or some people or organizations that are trying to do something similar? And how does AIOZ Network, how does it compare or compete?
Mm, right. So allow me to, I would say, compartmentalize each, I would say, service, each infrastructure as a service. So let's go to W3S. So W3S itself is in comparing to a Web 2 space, of course, we have AWS, which is called Amazon Web Services. We have Microsoft Azure, we have a GCP, Google Cloud Platform, DigitalOcean. So these are very, very powerful like cloud platforms, right? And they're pretty much doing what we're doing too, but in a very centralized manner. But for us, we're in a decentralized manner with the pin sort of flavor, right? So in the Web3 space, I would say we're quite comparable in that particular infrastructure called W3S. We're quite comparable to Storj, I would say. We're very closely related, I think, in terms of what we are building, in terms of storage side of things. So that's on the S3 W3S side of things. On the W3 IPFS, right? This particular product, I would say in the Web 2 space, there is none because um, I think in AWS for them to turn on IPFS business or GCP, I think it's easy peasy for them, right? So, but for in the Web3 space, I would say it's a hybrid. Currently, there's one main player, one of the biggest player. We'll call them a Pinata.cloud. You can DOI OR on them, and they're basically using IPFS protocol. Yet, it is powered by a architecture which is a cloud compute, right? So we are that space. We're like a Web3, completely Web3 space, right? Meaning like we've used IPFS protocol plus a DePIN network. So onwards to W3 Stream. W3 Stream is a video infrastructure. So that in the Web2 space, we can be quite comparable to like an AWS CloudFront and or Bright Cove or a Mux.io or a BAMTech. BAMTech is basically a company that got bought out by Disney to power their streaming services. So this is the Web 2 space. In the Web 3 space, of course, we're quite comparable to like um, data, right? They do streaming. We have live peer to do live streaming, right? So I think this is a business which is interesting for us as well because I think video is always a huge consumption. It's, the consumer base is huge, right? For this business. And the W3I as a business in the Web 2 space, of course, we have our AWS, we have GCP. They're doing a lot of AI computes. We have Replicate, .com, and these are all the compute platforms, right? They power and they provide GPU power, right? Super duper powerful. I would say data center grade. And then, of course, in the Web3 space, we have a lot of, I would say, comparisons out there. It can vary from different flavors, from like um, Ether to IONET to BitTensor. So everyone have a sort of unique USP inside there. We, of course, are in the compute side of things, platform with a front end interface, right? And with the pin flavor, truly the pin flavor, right? So, in a sense, this is quite a broad, I would say, business so-called scope we're building. If you were to ask me in an elevator pitch, what is the sentence to summarize all of it? We're really building in like an AWS or GCP on blockchain, essentially. AWS has like 200 over services. But for us, AIOZ Network, we are only able to build with four. But that's because this is the bandwidth we have, this is the resources we have, and we don't want to bite more than what we can chew. But I think we're comfortable with it. I think we are able to ship all these different products. I would say on target by this year. Yeah. Thanks.
Fantastic. And the elevator pitch is always a helpful note for all of our listeners to take away with them. Now, you've mentioned that AIOZ Network has been around for some time. And I'm curious to hear from you when it comes to the blockchain that you are building on. So, if I'm correct, it's Cosmos. So it's a Cosmos-based blockchain, EVM compatibility. Is that still the case, or have you moved over into your own layer one?
Yes, you're absolutely right. So when we launched 2021 in April, at that time our mainnet was not ready. So we had to, I would say, did an event, TG event, on simultaneously on the multi-chain. Even before then, I think we were one of the few projects at that time, right, that launched on a dual so-called on blockchain network. One is ERC20, one is Binance Smart Chain, what we call BEP20, right? So we launched it. It was quite successful. We also have and believed in a Cosmos ecosystem, right? There's the ideology of internet of blockchains appeals to us as developers. It is a secure network, and also we just have to RPC to each other. It's a very strong documentation framework. The technically it's very sound for us developers. So we chose Cosmos to camp, to build, and we're still on Cosmos SDK with RPC to the Cosmos Hub, right? And we intend to RPC to other projects out there very soon while we're building out this infra that we're focusing on at the moment, right? So yes, we're also EVM compatible. That also means that we're also building a gravity bridge whereby it's a decentralized bridge completely. One could able to bridge from the EVM assets to Cosmos assets, back and forth, right? So we're actually quite blockchain, I would say, out there, open, right? Multi-chain. I believe even talking to the different layer ones out there where we have partnership with, from Aptos to Cardano, right? When in my conversation with the teams, is that we want to be the infra of choice, right? Projects can still build on the different blockchains out there, the layer ones, and we just want to be sort of be part of the space, right? A Web3 space for these different projects. So they recognize it, and that's why we're in collaboration together. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Now, before we get into some of the questions that our community have submitted, and guys, just for reference, this call is recorded. So if you do have to hop off at any point, or if you have just joined, you will be able to catch a copy of the recording. So starting off with one of the first questions, and this is actually my own question. I'm curious to hear from you, Erman. What has been some of your a key milestone or achievement this year? Because I was reading somewhere, and I thought this was really fascinating, that AIOZ Network has been the first DeepIn company listed on the NVIDIA Accelerated Applications Catalog, which is a big step forward for DeepIn in general, in my opinion. So the NVIDIA global user base can now explore AIOZ's DeepIn infrastructure while they develop new applications. And I thought that was a pretty big win for the DeepIn industry as a whole to get recognition by the likes of AI. I think that convergence between AI and blockchain is really accelerating and cementing more and more in 2024. And that was a great example of that. So I'm sure that was probably a pretty big time for you. Has there been any key standout highlights so far in 2024? And what have they been?
Mm, right. So 2024 is the year where I think our entire company, our entire resources are truly, truly spent on shipping, right? We have pretty much built for several years now. And right now, we're at the stage, at the moment where we're confident that we're able to ship some of the different infras. For example, we shipped the W3S, we have shipped the W3 IPFS, and very soon we're going to ship the W3 AI as going out of due in the roadmap for Q2, which is by June, and also W3 Stream. So I think that we're very proud of it. I think it takes up a lot of our energy, right, in terms of from design perspective to a technical implementation perspective to security perspective. So we've taken a lot in our thought process, right, in building it. And yes, you're right. I think being recognized and being listed on NVIDIA Accelerated Apps Catalog gives us validation, because it's something we've been with touch with NVIDIA for some time. You know, we've have close relationship. You know, we even provided technical so-called research for them in 2019. You know, my team and I, we attended their GTC conference event, and at that time, AI was at its potentially going to grow, right? It was at the moment of growth, and now, of course, it's exploding. You know, and I mean, it's a natural progression for us, I think, to be part of them, and for them to recognize us. It's something. It's any day. It's like any other day for us. But at the same time, we feel proud of it that we are side by side with them. Yeah, in a sense, yes. And the
And I
very
think that
fact
is,
that
oh,
I
sorry, you
like
go
to
ahead.
add is because one of the things that I think NVIDIA recognizes is that while building out this DePIN network, you know, when I was explaining to them, and of course they vet our company, you know, what exactly do we do with NVIDIA, right? First of all, of course, we use NVIDIA GPU cards to do the heavy lifting of AI work. But specifically, we use I would say the NVIDIA CUDA framework, right? Which is what, you know, every AI developers has to go through this rite of passage, you know. So I think using the software layer together with the hardware layer sort of gives both parties a aligning of the interests. I think that's where I think uh, using the unused resources is an appeal, right, to NVIDIA as well as the thought process, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, fantastic. So now let's move on to some of the community questions that we have had submitted. A few of these are from community members from Columbia that actually are also running AIOZ nodes. So it's pretty interesting to hear some of their perspectives. We have one question, which is focusing on does AIOZ Network, does it plan to open source the client software?
Yes, good question. So at the moment, it is still not yet open. We're still studying whether to open source it, because open sourcing has its pro and cons. At the same time, it allows for growth of community, I would say, contribution to the growth in development of that particular project or a product, right? So I think we're at the stage where we're not yet ready to open source it due to security reason. We care a lot about security. So I think till then, when we are comfortable as such that the node is secure, at the same time it performs the task that it's supposed to for the network, I think we're comfortable because it's sort of like a duty from my from our perspective to ensure that it is robust enough, the node works as what it is, and as well as it's secure enough, right? So I just want to share this, you know, in terms of our thought process. It's not that we don't open source it or while we're closing it. It's a lot to do with I would say checks and balances. Like there's pros and cons. A lot of things that is being uh, I would say released. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And the next question is regarding documentation for AIOS
Mm.
Network and asking if you have any plans to document how to use the options and config files. And the person submitting the question has given the example of how do I access the Prometheus metrics?
Yeah, I think in documentation wise, we do have a very basic sort of called like a starter package or like I mean, it's a knowledge base, but I think it's basic enough and also simple enough that one will be able to understand and read. Of course, I think we're still, as we evolve, as we progress, I think we definitely want to add more resources in terms of adding more knowledge in terms inside that knowledge base. Yeah. So we look to definitely getting more information inside that knowledge base. Yes.
Great. And then we have one question which is focusing on the tokenomics of AIOZ networks. So let's put the focus on the token aside, but from a tokenomics perspective, can you just give us a breakdown of what kind of um, lockups you have, if you have any, and what's coming anytime soon, and if there's anything that any AIOZ network holders need to keep in mind?
Mm. Yeah. So as of now, I the entire, I would say, the tokens is all unlocked and distributed, and that we do have inflation at now 8%. I think we started off as 9% inflation, and subsequently every year we're reducing by 1% for a 5% long term. And the inflation is basically needs to pay for the APY staking, right? It's basically a fundamental principle of proof of stake. I mean, so to speak. That's why there's all this inflation. Of course, we also have a burning mechanism whereby if there's utility of the network, it gets burned 50% of the transaction on the blockchain. And also on the infra side of things, we'll be burning like 5% of the top line, right? So essentially, that's the tokenomics. Yeah.
Great. And then do you have plans for any other dApps that you'll be building on the AIOZ network?
Yes. So currently we're in collaborations with a lot of projects out there with a lot of interest, especially in Web3, right? Whereby, be it they are in gaming or in NFT, right? They are already in Web3, right? The infra, looking for Web3 infra like us, the pin infra, is a natural symbiotic relationship. So I think working with other projects is definitely a go-to market strategy. Second of all, we do have our own, I would say, native dApps for the purposes of showing that, hey, we're building this so-called AIOS drive that uses W3S, or we build AIOS D-transfer, which is a form of a WeTransfer, uh, and that it works, you know. So I think this two storage business that we've pushed out is sort of gives a very good color and paint that uh, network in terms of it's working, it's doable, and we want to show the other developers that if we can do it, so can you. Yeah, and I think as W3 stream as an infra, the video infrastructure gets rolled out, and the W3I infrastructure is being shipped. I think we have plans in the future also to build dApps on top of it, and also to showcase, being in the front line and as developer to take the leap forward, right? To say that, hey, these are all the different dApps that we have built, and clearly it's done and it works, and essentially that's a sort of called like flagship dApps for us. Yeah.
Great. And I know this is going to be a very tough question for a founder when we look at evolution over the next few years. So, with the recent achievements and exposure that you guys have clearly achieved with AIOS Network, I'm curious to hear from you how you see AIOS Network evolving in the next few years. We've talked about the roadmap for this year. What other major milestones would you say you're focusing for and aiming for?
Mm. Yes, so I think a couple of challenges lie ahead in terms of what we see and also what the vision looks like. So I think the vision remains in terms of that we want to build a depend network which is community based, it's peer to peer, it's on the edge. A dream of neighborly, so-called compute powering each other. We stream to each other neighborly. We can provide compute power neighborly, right? And I think in order to achieve that, we require a lot of adoption, right? Meaning like for the community, for the world to understand and be aware that you can actually use unused computing resources and participate, right? Because anyways it's redundant, right? So why not power it? So that's, I would think, part of our vision. I mean, continuously be our vision, right? And the vision that we have is also providing this service as we scale out, right? I mean, we want to be able to scale out from 170,000 to 500,000 to 1 million, so in a cost-effective way as well. So I think, um, that's some of the vision that we want to do, and it remains, as well as AI to be the main cornerstone. I think AI is here to stay. After all, we're AI at heart. We are true AI developers since beginning of time of our company, right? So we believe that the pin edge compute can provide that computing power, right, for these data sets, real time AI task, and provide secure storage. And yeah, I think that's something we're striving for and we're working on as well. Yes.
And I'm curious to hear from you how you found community interest and how it's changed over the last 12 months, because I've been with the Coinbase team for 12 months now, and I know when I first joined, AI was something that we thought, it's like it's one to watch, but it's not so much of a hot topic. It's not really going to
Mhm.
get the attention, the eyeballs of the viewers and the retail investors that are in crypto. Now you say the word AI, you say the word deep in, and it's all systems go. People can really see upward price potential. But not only that, but they can see it as being something that's here to stay. Have you noticed over the last 12 months a surge in interest because of these buzzwords that are narratives that you're so closely focused on?
Right. So I think in terms of technical, to us it didn't change, right? For many 10 over, like since 2018, 2021, I mean, we're still building an edge compute, and it so happened that 2023, the pin became a strong narrative, and AI became explosive because we have a consumer-facing product like ChatGPT, Sora AI. So I think consumers start to understand that AI is here to stay, and of course, we have government, right? Government stepping in to build an AI smart city or to AI the workforce. So I think that so-called mainstream media plus our crypto, drive towards merging these two great technology, I think creates a catalyst in terms of how can we um, merge these two to create a even more brighter future, right? So yes, I do see in the past 12 months a sudden pickup and interest, uh, because I think the demand is insatiable. I think it's huge, because I speak to Nvidia quite a bit in terms of their hardware. There's the demand is not able to keep up, right? But at the same time, I think very soon, I think you know the supply and demand will so-called even out, in the future, right? Then the talent is important. I always believe that AI talent is the asset of a company in any business, right? So I think um, I think AI is definitely not just a buzzword. It's going to be a mainstream, right? It's going to power a lot of things, from driverless cars to humanoids, and um, everything will be simplified, right? And um, when people say, "Oh, what are we building?" Right? Driverless cars. We're essentially building a driver to replace the driver, right? So because that's why it's driverless, right? So yeah, I think that's what I see. The I think we're a comfortable space. We look forward to this future. It's going to be, I would say, interesting for everyone, especially in the crypto space, to see, to understand, right? Um, yeah.
Absolutely. And in a few years' time, we won't need to be physically doing these AMAs ourselves. We could have our AI bots doing them for our behalf. Now, the final question, which I think is a very nice one to end on, is asking, do you have any plans for a Discord or similar place for a community to ask these kind of questions? At the moment, I only see Twitter X and Telegram. So it's someone looking to reach out a little more to the AIOZ network.
Right. So, regards to Discord and other communication platform, I apologize if we are not on the many other platforms, great platforms out there, due to the very reason that we only have bandwidth for certain, uh, I would say, quality control, right? So we have Twitter that we are very active on, and Telegram, which we are quite active on, and every communication platform require a dedicated channel, a dedicated team and dedicated resources. So I think as we grow, natural progression is to add new and exciting platforms and the community where everyone is at. Of course, I think Discord is a platform that we're looking at into the future as well. Um, Make no mistake, I think it's a great platform itself. However, it's just due to the resources that we intend to allocate. Yeah, at the moment. Yes. I'm just being
Absolutely.
forthright and honest about bandwidth. I mean, I wish I can do everything, anything. But I also have to not overburn the team or the team to be in a comfortable pace, right?
Yeah.
And deliver what we say, what we do. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we always talk about scalability of blockchains, but ultimately the people that are working on marketing and promoting the projects themselves, there has to be some level of boundaries there too. So with that in mind then, Ermin, thank you so much for taking time out of what I believe is a very busy schedule to sit down with us in the community and answer some of these questions we had, as I mentioned, quite a lot of validators that were in the chat that had submitted questions beforehand that were really keen to hear your perspective. So I think on behalf of me and the rest of the Coinbeer community, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Fin- Fantastic. Thank you so much. And for everyone that is listening with us live, thank you so much for tuning in. It's always great to see you all in the chat and also on the live. For those of you that may have joined a little bit later, as always, you know, we will be sharing the links for the full recording in the event channel too. So do make sure to check it out there. And thank you so much for joining. We'll catch you all in the next one.